All right, thank you very much, Tope Alabi, for that background. Of course, Tope did that background before he was dispatched this morning to the site of the building collapse in Garki here in Abuja. So we have guests to discuss matters arising in terms of what should be the agenda for science, innovation, tech, and still sectors of the economy. Let's welcome a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Umar Bindri is former Director General of NOTAP, which is the Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion. He's also a former Secretary to Adamawa State Government. Dr. Bindri, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
And joining us via Zoom from the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, Kuru, near Jos in Plateau State, Professor Mohammed Haruna is the immediate past Executive Vice Chairman, NASENI. Professor Haruna, we're glad to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
It's good to have you again. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, NTA.
All right, we appreciate that, sir. We are hoping also to have another guest who will be joining us via Zoom. All right, we're glad to have established link with him. That's coming via Zoom from Houston, Texas. His Royal Highness Otis Anyeji Obi Onuwunokeja, Chairman, Coalition of Professional Engineering Institutions in Nigeria, and of course, former President of Nigerian Society of Engineers. We thank you for joining us all the way from the USA.
Thank you, Kilian, for having me.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin this conversation this way. We have new helmsmen in charge of innovation, science, and tech, as well as steel development, and it's almost like sounding like a broken record to say that the foundation for development, science and tech, foundation for development, innovation, foundation for development is steel. That without the steel industry functioning, you keep, of course, rolling from one attempt to the other without actually gathering moss. But the former executive vice chairman of NASENI, Professor Haruna, we know that, of course, during your tenure at NASENI, there was some traction that was gained. But in your opinion, so that we maximize the time that we have today, what are those things that we need to avoid in order to maximize the benefits of innovation, science, tech, as well as steel development? In other words, how do we avoid dragging ourselves back and seeking to go back to point origin as if nothing previously existed until today?
Thank you very much for this question. Straight to the point, it is very important not to reinvent the wheel. All the policies, strategies for implementations, and desired goals are there and adequate. Some implementation has commenced, some are even yielding some result. So it is very important to continue and not to abandon these policies. Even the National Development Plan 2021-2025 has identified and recognized the role of STI, and things are happening before the coming of this administration. It is very important to continue and not to start new projects until those ones that have been started and a lot of fund has been invested in that. High skilled manpower has been trained. There is competence locally in order to achieve the desired goals. Continuation to see to the completion of those projects are very important in brief.
All right, let me stay with you, Prof, because you have had one or two things to do with Ajaokuta Steel Complex. As a matter of fact, you had opportunity of working in that environment and making use of some of their facilities and the infrastructure. And you know, one of the major issues in Nigeria with respect to science, technology, and innovation is that Nigerians do not want to believe that Nigerians are capable of doing things themselves, especially building cars, building what do you call electronic gadgets, you know, and other appliances that we import from outside Nigeria. Let us know if, of course, the current administration can key into what you know about Ajaokuta Steel Complex and the capability of that environment. Give us a clue of what this administration could do specifically for Ajaokuta, because you are familiar with that terrain.
Ajaokuta Steel Development Company that commenced in 1975 is supposed to produce liquid steel in 3 phases. Phase 1 was to be 1.3, phase 2 was to be 2.6, and phase 3 was to be 5.6 tons of liquid steel annually. Now, there was a problem, and to solve the problem and to move forward, it is very important to reflect on the problems, the historical perspectives, and the challenges that led us to where we are today. From the beginning, the project started from end products instead of the beginning. Now, the phase 1 is supposed to have billet mills which will process iron ore into billets that will be used for other products. Now, out of the 43 plants of sophisticated machine and equipment in the project, 40 or thereabout has been completed. 3 of them or 4 of them light section mills for producing light iron, medium section mills, and road mills were completed and even commissioned. And in fact, they produced products between 1984 to around 1987 or 88. However, what was produced was based on imported billets from Russia. Now, another challenge is that while the Ajaokuta Steel Complex had been constructed, the European nations approached Nigeria several times and advised the federal government to abandon steel projects and concentrate rather on agriculture. Now, when this thing was going on, the pressure on federal government and with attractive package and with allegation that the Ajaokuta steel technology, which is based on a basic reduction process, the technology was said to be all method and it's not cannot be viable. So Germans approached Nigeria with attractive package of loan from Deutsche Bank, and a German and Australian company were commissioned and contracted to provide alternative steel development. So they were given turnkey project for a larger steel development in Delta State. And that was funded from a loan from Deutsche Bank. That one was to use direct process that it can utilize even low-grade steel. Now, they started bringing in their own products also from Guinea. And as time goes on, neither Ajaokuta nor Alaja was completed. So what's the problem? In administration come in and go, so that after the regime of military head of state of Babangida, Buhari, later on Obasanjo in 2003, concession the production process after the project must have gotten over $10 billion US to a company that is an American company. Of course, the Russian company was Tiazo from Export. It was owned by Russian government. The collapse of Soviet Union was also a factor. So now, the Ajaokuta Steel was concession to a U.S. company. That company was to handle it for, they are called Solar Gas Energy, for 10 years. Due to incompetence and non-performance, in 2004, the concession agreement was terminated because...
What government can do?
Yeah, Prof, thanks a lot for the background that you have given. We will return again to get into some more details of what needs to be done. And Kyrian, I was just talking about the international conspiracy against Ajaokuta, and some of our guests in the past on Good Morning Nigeria had equally drawn attention to this. If we were to say, look, abandon Ajaokuta, focus on agriculture, where are we in agriculture today? And what are we doing in terms of steel? If you need steel, those plants that they said, oh, this technology was obsolete, have those plants around the world, have they shut down? Or they are still in business?
Let's improve.
Obviously. And this is part of what you find. It's an open secret when you read some of the books written by some of these persons who have conscience, as it were, telling you about the international political dimension into projects and poverty entrenchment, particularly in the third world. Professor Mohamed Haruna, thank you very much. We'll come back to you, as we said, in the course of this conversation. Now, back to the studios, Dr. Umar Bindri. Dr. Umar Bindri, I want you to take off from where Professor Haruna started. And he says, don't try to reinvent the wheel. There are strategies already in place. We already have some level of implementation. We have trained personnel. You could, of course, improve on the trained personnel so that you're not trying to assume that this is a tabula rasa, clean slate. Oh, you are the first guy to be on the beat, and you are the one that's going to do it. You get consultants, and you keep wasting. I mean, typical story that at the end of the day, I mean, as the saying goes, you take 2 steps forward and then 5 steps backward. You of course familiar with administrative processes. There are handover notes already in place. What are your thoughts on this, if we are to get things right?
Well, thank you very much. This is a very broad question, but because we're specifically centering our discussions on science, technology, and innovation, and relating it to the development of the steel sector, I think Nigerians, its leadership, right from the president, through the ministers, down to the bureaucracy, must understand that our survival, our development is directly linked to the quality of our knowledge. If we don't know, we don't know. If we know, you don't have to speak about it. It will just show. Your agriculture will be good. Your healthcare will be good. Your water will be nice. Your roads will be well maintained. Your clothing will be nice. Your houses will be good, if you have knowledge and you are applying it. So, for the 2 ministries or the 2 ministers, these are not very clear-cut sectors. These are overlapping sectors that require partnership, synergy, cooperation, even internationally, to ensure that you move forward. Starting with science, technology, and innovation is very complex. Very, very complex in the sense that the science is just knowledge. The technology is the translation of the knowledge into solutions, whereas the innovation is utilizing the solutions to now do things for our people. Now, if you look at where we are, what is our poverty level? It's very high. It is a clear indication that we either don't have the knowledge, or we have the knowledge, we are not using it to evolve solutions, or we have the knowledge and the solutions we are not applying on our people. Our poverty is very high. So this is the agenda of the ministers. The Minister of Science and Technology must understand that there are over 300 research and development institutions in this country, spread not just in his ministry. There are agriculture ones in agriculture. There are health ones in Ministry of Health. There are water ones in Ministry of Water, and certainly steel ones in steel. So he has to be the energetic focal person to coordinate all this knowledge generation and solutions evolution, and then application of these solutions for the good of our people centrally. So he is not going to sit there. I mean, I used to do the analogy where if a Minister of Health moves into the office of the President will say, hey, I gave you 100 billion for health. What did you do? Oh, Mr. President, we've done hospitals, we brought equipment from Germany and Japan, and everybody's clapping for you. Mr. President will say, thank you very much. Hey, agriculture, I gave you 20 billion. Oh, no, we've imported tractors from India. And then science and technology moves to meet the President. Because science and tech, I gave you a fund in Naseni or whatever. What did he do? He probably will start saying, well, we have 200 papers in international journals, and we have this, and that. That is not going to work. The way he's going to translate his solution is that, Mr. President, you gave me money, we generated the knowledge, we've protected it as intellectual property, we've converted it into solutions. That bill of your health is now coming down because Nigerians are doing it. That bill in agriculture, now we're making tractors in income, and so on and so on. This should be his language. For him to answer the president like that, he must be very, very good in calming down to spread his bandwidth of implementation into 4 immediate things. Like Professor Haruna said, there are things that have already been concluded. Don't start things. Mop all this up. Show Nigerians there are things that have been manufactured, people are using it, but they're at a level. These immediate things, push it. Then the short term politically is 2 years in Nigeria. Then try to do, and then long term, and so on and so forth. So this is it. For steel, steel is the mother of all first and second industrial revolutions. Everybody, don't stick to it. That this is we're way behind. Even if you reactivate all this steel industry, we're still way behind. But it has to be done. You cannot succeed in agriculture if your steel development is not. You cannot succeed in health, and so on and so on. So the manufacturing, the know-how, the innovation is tied to this resource so that we can be able. So these two, my advice to them based on the experience is that calm down, take stock of where you are, ensure that you are a friend to everybody. Don't quarrel with your civil servants and heads of your institutions. Encourage them. It's not easy.
Read your handover notes.
Read your handing over notes very well. Listen to the handing over submissions by your own parastatal heads, and then ensure that you have an agenda, very clear booklet to say that this is the timeline, and then check yourself on your timeline so that whether you are ahead of schedule or behind schedule or stagnant.
All right, Dr. Bindra. Let's go to Otis Anyeji, who is with us via Zoom from Houston, Texas. You were president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. You are currently chairman of Coalition of Professional Engineering Institutions in Nigeria. And I'm sure I've also held other positions with respect to science, technology, and innovation. And I want to believe, quite frankly, that during your time as head of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, that you have made impact, or rather made input to government policies on science and technology. And I'm not sure that such input were followed to the latter by government in the past. Of course, that is the reason why we cannot say today that we have arrived when it comes to science, technology, and innovation, especially homegrown technology. So now we are talking about a new dispensation, and that we have a young man who is there now as the Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation. What will you be telling him if you are in the position to do that, to say, look, we've been there for years, we have experience, we have we have institutions, engineering institutions, we have in fact, the hierarchy of engineering in Nigeria, and these are persons who have made impact in the engineering sector, engineering subsector. So let's get your take on what should be the first step, or steps, or perhaps maybe short term, medium term, or long term, steps that should be taken for now to, of course, ensure that innovation, science, technology becomes the nucleus of our development plan.
Thank you very much. I would, in fact, tell the minister that his mandate split into three: science, technology, and innovation. For science, he can do a lot through the universities, because that really is the locus for basic research. And the universities, quite some of them have some equipment to do work in that area, and they can also be further supported. And he should look at technology as the missing link of our development for now, because the Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry ought to look into what is happening in the various sectors technology-wise. And by that, I mean, for example, that in 2018 or 2019, after one had tried, as president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, to persuade the then Minister of Industry to get into the matter of converting the medium section and structural mill in Ajaokuta Steel Plant, so that it could be modified to produce rails, since the government was getting into rail projects of more than $20 billion at that time. And realizing that in the project costing for rails, that the rails itself would account for about 60 to 70% of the cost. And there is much value to be gained by making these things in Nigeria. There's already a facility that you only need some modification to carry out, and then it begins to produce rail. Well, eventually the Minister of Industry wrote officially to say that government does not want to run Ajaokuta Steel Plant piecemeal. And this is a place where you have like 43 factories, very many of them independent of each other. And it is like somebody coming to say that government or the private sector has decided not to run Ikeja Industrial Estate piecemeal, because Ajaokuta is like Ikeja Industrial Estate or Trans-Amadi Industrial Estate in Rivers State, to decide that, it is only when all the factories there are working together that it will work, is really not what we ought to be doing. And so I had to petition the Minister of Science and Technology and requested him to liaise with his colleague in industry and also in steel making to see that Nigeria gets this plant that is already there working, so that when you, if $14 billion is kind of spent in Nigeria to produce these rails, it is going to transform the economy so much. But the minister at the time didn't quite get through that. And I'm suggesting to the new minister that is coming in, as well as the Minister of Steel Development, and as well as the Minister of Industry, who has a responsibility for manufacturing policy in Nigeria, that they also get together and get that particular plant running, because all the feasibility, business plan, what will be needed for getting that producing rail has been done. It will only be touched up with the passage of maybe 4 or 5 years. And Nigeria will get into the business of producing rails. And then there are other sectors that ought to be of concern. If we take Delta Steel factory, the Delta Steel factory, as Prof said, is supposed to be a direct reduction plant for the production of iron. And when the project was done, or the project studies were done, we were told that the Nigerian iron ore was not good enough for that plant, and that we must get iron ore from Venezuela or Brazil or Guinea. And so Nigeria was importing the iron ore. But at a point, our engineers and scientists went into some research to see how Nigerian iron ore could be used. And by 1993, they had succeeded in using Nigerian ore to produce direct reduced iron in that place. And instead of the government supporting that initiative and sustaining it, what then happened was that the next year, they were removed from the budget. And then what followed, of course, was the closing down of the steel plant. So also in that place, a lot can be achieved if we have that determination that we want the plant to run. That plant was very cost effectively built at the time it was done. And Nigeria did not get much value from it because it never produced to beyond 25% capacity of the iron producing plant. And that is because government did not support it with the capital it needed for industrial undertakings of that nature. Also, like
Engineer Otis Anyeji, thank you very much. We'd like to pause you in the meantime. You explained a number of issues, and we do hope that these explanations, of course, will affect the thinking of policymakers to recognize, for instance, yet again, the international political dimension to the proper functioning of Ajaokuta. I mean, following from what Professor Mohammed Haruna earlier said and what you have also re-emphasized, if we are able to break the jinx, and we do hope that we'll break the jinx, certainly, I mean, this will be a runaway success story for everyone. Engineer Anyeji, we'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Now, let's return to Professor Mohammed Haruna with us via Zoom from NIPS, Kuru, near Jos. Professor Haruna, before we get into some aspects of what you did at Nasene, which will be the examples of work already done, strategies already prepared, and development plans ongoing, there was a success story during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. An innovation council for the first time was set up. It had been in the works for some 3 decades or so, we learned. And the whole idea was to reduce to the barest minimum the tendency for the silo mentality and conflicts amongst a number of otherwise interconnected MDAs. Did that council function very well? And how well also did it leverage the activities of Nasene? And therefore, what should President Bola Ahmed Tinubu learn from that going forward, further as instructions to the new ministers that he has in relevant ministries and departments?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, there was the Research and Innovation Council appropriately constituted, which is chaired by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That council was only inaugurated, and it involved all stakeholders and relevant ministries. As Dr. Bindir has said, science, technology, and innovation cut across so much services across the nation that synergy collaboration was necessary. And the best person that can host that collaboration and supervise its operation and success is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So good enough that the National Assembly has approved that, the constitution of that and the composition. But unfortunately, I think after inauguration, subsequently, the council did not operate. For Naseni, we had no problem of board meetings and interaction, and that has influenced so much the result we were able to achieve, because the chairman of the governing board of Naseni is Mr. President himself, and we have never missed board meetings and implementations of what was approved, despite the challenges of fund, because, for instance, throughout the period of my stewardship in Naseni, 9 years of my tenure, there was no fund to support implementation of the project. But the only time we had fund in 2022, so many results shown. And then because the president sit on the board to direct the implementation of the mandate and program of the agency, the impact has been seen. And this is what is practiced across the globe to achieve success. Although you have taken me out of Ajaokuta still, I would have wanted to conclude on it that in line also with what Engineer Otis illustrated, it is possible to operate 3 mills now in Ajaokuta on their status now. They were commissioned and they did production, and in fact, Naseni at one time has used some part of that in order to produce its product, where iron and steel products are needed. What is needed now is to allow private company to operate those 3 mills, even if they are importing from Guinea, from Egypt, some billet in order to produce what it is, while continuation of other projects is going on. I want to also say that, as Otis has said, there is now advanced technology for the direct reduction that Nigerians also have trained personnel on it. The method that Chinese is using in producing steel and even in producing silicon for solar cell, which is even much more difficult than the production of iron ore. Thank you.
All right, Prof. I was going to also ask you a question. That will be another round because we'll have to return to the studio to talk to Omar Binder. Because, you know, what really concerns me most of the time when we discuss issues on technology and innovation is the insincerity of purpose, you know, that I've realized over the years that comes from the part of government in terms of ensuring or having the will to say, look, Nigeria must achieve this and that will be achieved. I was privileged to be in China with you when over 60 engineers were trained in the production of the manufacturing of electric transformer. And these engineers are back in Nigeria, and I've been meeting with them often and on, and they are worried. They want to start manufacturing Nigerian electric transformer. And they can do it because we saw them do it in China from scratch to finish. Nigerian engineers, all on Naseni. And you know, this means that we also have other capabilities, not just in the manufacturing of electric transformer, but other things that we have seen. Because Naseni has over 150 different products, solution providing kind of products across all facets of science and technology in terms of electronics, electricals, and what have you. But what we're saying again is that when we believe in homegrown technology, actions must be taken by government to effect it and to make it happen. And Dr. Binder, you have been in the saddle in an establishment that has the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion. Now, in terms of promotion, that component, you know, of the title, how has it worked in this country in terms of promoting our technology? Because when China started in the early 70s, they started by promoting the technology, local capacity, and the citizens listened to China. Today, you know where China is when it comes to science and technology. So where did we get it wrong, or what should the current administration do next?
I think it's a very, very serious and very fantastic question. But I'll start by first of all recognizing that I've seen my king, Chief Engineer Otis, after so many years. You are looking so well, sir. But anyway, you see, Nigerians, we must understand that if we want to develop our country, we have to be proud of our country. We have to encourage ourselves. We have to, push ourselves. If we succeed halfway, we should push to succeed 3/4 and fully. Nigerians don't know that the hydroform brick making equipment that you see on your DSTV manual coming from South Africa, the technology is from Otta. Nibri designed it and invented it. They just came and took it away. Mini chinching that you see in aircraft being shared, the chinching is Nigerian. We couldn't push it to the next level. Indians came and pushed it forward. We have so many, like Kirian said, the science kit developed in Naseni. You can teach an out-of-school child chemistry and physics under a tree. We won African Union result. I don't think many Nigerians, particularly many high-flying political leaders, know. Look here. This is Nigerian invented. This box you see here. Look at it. To address the out-of-school and marginal children. This is the allo. It has been plastic. Instead of having the wood, we have an iPad. You can teach artificial intelligence and virtual reality under a tree. It's Nigerian. But I don't think many Nigerians know. You have so many of these. So the agenda is for, like I said before, Minister of Science and Technology, you must be able to know these things. See which ones are applicable in water. You must work with Minister of Water Resources. See what is applicable in agriculture. You must work with Minister of Agriculture. See what is good for training young people. Give them Nigerian manufactured starter packs to start small businesses. So you must work with Poverty Elevation Minister. This is the confidence that Nigerians must start from. This is how the Chinese and the Indians are torturing their people to ensure that they are busy, their employment is generated, they know how. But we like jumping, leapfrogging, and forgetting about the water lily that is important for us to walk. We're talking now about artificial intelligence when we have not done the natural intelligence to solve our own security problems. We're talking about virtual reality when we've not done physical reality to solve our problems. So this jump, we have to calm down and be able to take Nigeria naturally. We have it, like Karian has said. We have it, like Kingsley has said. You've heard Professor Haruna. In Naseni alone, if they were to give it the book of success stories, things that today, if we say manufacture 10 of these things, it can solve the poverty elevation of this country, is there. But I don't think we are on a posture of encouraging ourselves. When we graduate from ABU, we don't want to say I'm ABU. When we go to 2 months course in Harvard, it is the one that we fly on top. We say, when I was in Harvard. We don't like ourselves. We must come back and condense ourselves to like ourselves so that our knowledge will become our solutions. And our solutions will develop our people and our country. This is the summary of where we are, and in my opinion, where we should be going to, so that when we go higher, the technology will become meaningful.
Dr. Umar Bintri, thank you very much. When you see those resumes, and they're telling you, it's an alumnus of
Oxford.
I went for a 1 week or a 7-day executive program, and then the Buga factor says.
And look at the card,
precisely, alumni association. But you're looking for the translation of that knowledge into real life experiences, as you said, in our environment. The thing will be excuses. So the world is talking about AI, so we must be AI. As you rightly observed, Dr. Bindri, we haven't talked about the human, practical, physical intelligence. It is good to think about AI, but where are you? Where are you leapfrogging? The same way you find in the financial sector, in the economy, one of the major challenges, as experts have pointed out, you can see the financial services have outpaced manufacturing and industrialization, and therefore production. So we are ahead in terms of financial services, but what are you servicing? So that's the gap. So you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
and we will not fail. Your children will get more rewards than what you have, because they have a future in this country now.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Our boss was like, a decent fashion designer only gets home at midnight. Midway.
Man like Osimhen, Papa just the chop Italian league like Oha.
These are real housewives of Abuja. Those women are fire. What does OJ say again? A relationship with money is alhamdulillah.
Because they wear uniform, you want to treat people anyhow. Imagine this officer. I will clear out online. Don't cost. Bruh, come on there. Face no matter. The biggest dragon for Westeros, now he's slow picking face down, climb down, right down like Formula 1. Yeah, catch me.
He found the gold and asked her for just shaking me piece of the pie, and she killed him for it.
Obini, fair women, no.
No one tells a story like we do. Showmax, Africa's original streaming service.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress.
Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And it is the woman that does that.
Sportybet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
Yeah, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Dr. Umar Bindri was touching on a very significant point as well. I mean, all the issues they have raised are very important, and it has to do with ultimately commercialization of scientific findings, innovations, and all that. And I would like Professor Haruna to also weigh in on this, if you may. Professor Haruna, from before we go back to Chief Anyeji in Houston, what is the challenge? Is it poor marketing on the part of the innovators, or is it just lack of awareness on the part of our businessmen, that's to say venture capitalists who ordinarily can finance this? Because we must acknowledge the fact that innovators are busy and they are churning out ideas, but how to get them onto mass production has always been an issue. So what, in your opinion, can be done in this regard?
The problems are many. Number one, in some aspects, there is also poor packaging or poor finishing of products, of locally designed products, due to lack of use of advanced technologies for fine products, and lack of synergy, because certain products, if you go to where the advanced manufacturing facilities are available, it can be enhanced. So everybody wants to be alone, doesn't want to partner or collaborate with others. Another challenge is that generally there is a poor patronage of made in Nigeria products, and there is lack of enforcement of so many of the policies and executive orders that direct patronage and of use of Nigerian locally made products. I can assure you that the MDAs are even guilty. They don't patronize products that are available in other government agencies. You can see Naseni is manufacturing solar in commercial quantity, but you see government MDAs, ministries, and agencies going and placing contract orders from Germany, from India, from China. I can assure you that the highest patronage Naseni is getting on its own solar product is from private individuals, not from government. And it is a government-owned limited liability company. Also, the scientific products we produce in the Naseni system, there is more patronage from neighboring African countries than Nigerians officials would prefer to go and buy somewhere. And those who want to do mass production, due to lack of incentives and level playing ground, it's not profitable. You can't go to bank and take funding loan and break even. And also, you have rightly said, there is no venture capitalist where if you have a good innovation like in other countries with a good business plan, you can go and it will be funded and you will not be asked to provide any collateral other than you will maintain the integrity and ethics of your profession in the execution of such project. So again, the elites, the politicians are not prioritizing. They are yet to know or believe that science, technology, and innovative product from Nigeria, it is what will solve our socio-economic problem. And we must understand that and prioritize that. I can tell you, despite the funding, additional funding in science and technology and innovation, to see to the end of products and
well, Professor Haruna, thank you indeed. You have hit it, the nail on the head in terms of how we can, take the research results to the floor of the manufacturing sector. Right. And see, as we speak, gentlemen, you know that yesterday India launched a spacecraft called Chandrayaan. Right, at the South Pole, which Russia failed to do a month ago, and that tells you resilience. Look at India, that we were power with this country in the 70s, and today they are in the moon. Right, and that tells you that we can go to the moon as well, because we have the capacity. It's just the will. And when they were going, I watched the launch, the live launch, and the simulation, that to show when it landed. As a matter of fact, the Indian Prime Minister was there, live and direct, watching with the Indian flag, right, showing that India has achieved something that was not possible since their independence. And the first nation in the moon, Russia, couldn't get there when they want to return to the place, to the South Pole. But they are there. What are they seeking for? Ice and other materials, in the moon. So they are therefore a different mission altogether, as against what has been done in the past. So what are we saying? It is that the nation can achieve whatever it wants to achieve in science and tech. Now, Engineer Anyeji, let me ask you this. What is the possibility of homegrown technology in terms of policy articulation and implementation and enforcement to say, look, if Nigeria must progress or make progress in science and technology, we must purchase, we must begin to deploy locally made products, especially in agriculture. We have so many machinery that have been not just by Naseni and many other institutions across Nigeria, but they're not being deployed into agriculture, or they're not being encouraged for mass production. What can be done? I know that Professor Haruna had said something about that, but you can also give us your own clue or your own view on what we can do to ensure that our research results can be found on the floors of the manufacturing sector.
Thank you. Well, yeah, the solution to the issue you raised is certainly industrialization. And industrialization, one will say, oh, but we had done it before. We had set up steel plants, we had set up automotive plants, we set up refineries, chemical plants, cement plants, and so on. But also we see, everybody knows, all this failed. And they failed for just one reason. They failed because we went into industrialization without establishing a technological base. In other words, we built those steel plants by, as Prof mentioned, buying and bringing all the equipment from Russia. We built the refineries and so on by importing all those equipment to Nigeria. And as far back as the 90s, the government itself had realized this problem. Because the industry should build by buying all the equipment and the machinery from other places. That is, leads you to import substitution. Import substitution kind of industrialization. But you need to do the kind of industrialization where you begin by having the capability to manufacture machines that make other machines. In other words, you need to be in a position to produce all those machines or most of those machines and the equipment which you need to build a Coca-Cola plant, or to build an oil refinery, or to build a steel plant, or to build a machine tools plant, or to build an aircraft manufacturing company. And that has been done by way of plans and designs. The engineers in this country had done that, and the government accepted and established Naseni. It is for the purpose of this establishment of technological base that Naseni was established. But then it was established and the government refused to support them with funding, as Professor Haruna had said. And I must say here that that agency was established in 1992 with full statutory backing. But it was not until about 2 years ago that government started giving the money from the provision made in the law for that. And we must give a lot of credit on that to Professor M.S. Haruna for being able to convince government to begin to release the money that is meant for this establishment of technological base. And what we mean by that is that if they give the right level of the money that the agency needs, they will be in a position, together with the private sector, to begin to set up factories that make equipment, the kind of equipment you need to establish factories. And I believe that this government needs to take that serious. They need to move on that from day one. That is what has been missing. That's why all the industries we set up collapsed. You
all right.
cannot come and set up sophisticated...
Thank you very much, Engineer Anyeji, for the very important points that you have raised. We will go back presently to our correspondent, Tokpe Alabi, who is at the site of the building collapse in Garki here in Abuja. That structure came down during the heavy downpour last night, but that will be after we have taken a response from Dr. Umar Bindri right here with us in the studios. Dr. Bindri, the commercialization of findings. I love the example you gave earlier about, say, look, science and tech, if you were to stand before the president and say, tell me what you did versus the money that I gave to you, and he could see the impact on health, he could see the impact on agriculture, see the impact on works, and so on and so forth. The same way, I mean, Firo, I recall it sometime in the 80s, they were always in the news. Although in recent years it's been squabbles over who has the place, whether you have right qualification, whether a degree came from Cotonou or some such place. But these agencies have been busy. They have been busy. So how do we get them so that we hear less of, oh, we are spending forex to import raw materials? Because that's the ready alibi. Some of it is used for capital flight anyway, but how do we get this to commercialize them? Can that be an agenda, for any of these MDAs?
Well, there are two ways. You see, like I said before, we Nigerians, we have to calm down. Calm down in the sense that, and take the development naturally. Sometimes we like theorizing things. Traditional commercialization is that you have nice science, it has transformed to nice solutions. You then protect that with intellectual property. You have patents, you have trademarks, you have industrial design, trade secrets, and you use those to deceive or convince industry to take them so that there is no duplication or whatever, legal. This is the natural high-level industrialization route. However, the other route is that if NIBRI has perfected their brick-making machine, why can't a welding entrepreneur on the road be trained in NIBRI to take these things and start panel beating it on the road, and then many in that area are making bricks. So you don't have patenting and so on and so forth, but you can have some kind of licensing agreement. If you get 100 naira, give me 2 naira. I think Nigeria has a lot of these, and I encourage our technology leaders to mine these in a very logical manner through partnership and cooperation, and get Mr. President to be launching these small-scale industries nearly every day. Get the governors be launching these made in Nigeria industrial setups every day. You, Minister, too, you will not even have time to sit in the office because you will be launching sesame frying, small business here, kuli kuli making business here, puff puff making business here, based on Nigerian technology. And I think this is the infinitesimal snowballing effect that will now take us to this big time industrialization.
Yes, so sometimes from you, I've heard from you when you say that we have artisanal products that need to be advanced before they can make impact. Thank you indeed. As a matter of fact, I had the privilege of discussing with one of Nigeria's business men, and he was saying that time for importation is over. Now, if you cannot import, they're looking for molds somewhere. And I give them a direction at NEWI, when the Senate has an institute where they can get molds of whatever they want to do. That is how to begin to grow technology locally. Now, Tokpe Alabi is standing by to fill us in with further developments at the site of the building collapse incident last night. Tokpe, what has happened? I know that all this while there must have been actions on the part of FCT, emergency agency, and other relevant agencies who are there trying to rescue victims who may have been trapped in the rubble of the collapsed building. Let us know what is new from there.
Very busy hours here at the Lagos streets. A lot has happened. The excavators are still working on getting out the trapped victims. The issue is that the building is already weak from our findings, and when the rain started, there is nothing they could have done other than for the building to come down. From our findings too, we gather that almost about 37 people are in the hospital. I mean, in various degrees of fatalities, and they are receiving treatment. But I also have here the DG of FEMA, FCT Emergency Management Agency, Abbas Idris. Please, sir, what is the situation of things as it were? What can you tell us? It's been a very busy day, I must say.
Well, as you can see, the excavators are here now. We are running the search rescue at the moment. And as I told you earlier, 37 people have already been rescued. 2 were fatally injured. So we are still going down to ensure that nobody is left underneath. So as you can see now, we have mobilized more equipment, and more men are working assiduously to ensure that we get to the ground zero and ensure that nobody is left behind.
Well, Kirian, incidentally, most of the security agencies are here on ground. Civil Defense Corps, Road Safety, the police, NEMA, all of them are here trying to work together to see to the end of this. We are expecting that in no distant time, those that were trapped will be rescued, hopefully.
Kingsley, that some persons are still under the rubber of that last. From what his last statement, indicates that some people may still be trapped.
Well, if you recall, Kirian, while we were having the newspaper review, we said, look, are there sniffer dogs that have been deployed? That's to say, has the police K9 department been contacted to bring in sniffer dogs? Because you said you have payloaders, you have excavators. I don't see any cranes there. Do you have sniffer dogs to detect if there is any human being? And by the way, from what the FEMA DG is saying, he said 2 persons were fatally injured. Is that confirming now that 2 persons are dead and 37 are injured and receiving treatment in hospital? Tope?
Well, the DG NEMA is still here. I will just put the questions to him. Sir, the studios is asking the degree of fatality, and from what we have here, how soon are we really going to get out of this?
Well, we won't say the exact time that we'll get out of this, because you can see that the slabs are very heavy, and even though we have made over 50% of the assessment and the rescue. So the degree of fatality, of the victims, most of them are in the hospital and they are receiving treatment. I don't think it is something alarming because the only 2 fatalities that have been reported are already in the mortuary. So we believe that those people in the hospital will get well and be able to be discharged accordingly.
Well, Kirian, my findings revealed that we have to change our where we're standing because the excavators are still working.
I hope yes that you can reposition yourself properly, but just take this last question. I also hope that the MD is still there with you, because I'm going to ask him a question based on the integrity of the structure that we're talking about, because he's been said that the building was cracking, that there were some indications that the building was losing its integrity. I want to know whether he was aware of the situation of that structure before it collapsed. Tobe?
And what is FEMA going to do afterwards to mitigate this occurring decimal?
Well, if we have such a collapsed building, definitely there's going to be an investigative team by the experts in different fields, from the builders, from the architects, and so on and so forth. So they will form the investigation team and then find out the exact cause of the collapse. Sometimes the building may lack integrity. We cannot be able to say. It is only the investigation that will show. So with this, I'm sure by the time we finish the operations, that will be in place to determine what happened to even adjoining buildings, because it's going to really affect the other buildings. We'll have to also decide on what really happened to the other buildings, the adjoining buildings.
Well, we will let you. We will keep the studios posted as the situation unfolds here. It appears lots of technical work is going on here, and we may have to be very careful with our camera work.
Okay, thank you very much, Tokba, for the update at the site of the building collapse in Garki in Abuja. We still do not know. We hope that that will come up in terms of the nature of the building. Was it a 5-story building, a 2-story building? Of course, it couldn't have been a bungalow from what we are seeing. Thank you, Tokba Alabi. Now, we are back to the studios, and we only have time to appreciate our 3 guests today for the insights into our conversation with respect to agenda for science, technology, and steel development sectors of the economy. From Houston, Texas, we're joined by His Royal Highness Engineer Otis Anyeji. He's Obi Onowu Nokija, formerly president of the NSE, that's Society of Engineers, and current chairman, Coalition of Professional Engineering Institutions in the country. So, Engineer Anyeji, we appreciate your being with us. And also, we thank the immediate past Executive Vice Chair of Naseni, Professor Mohammed Haruna. He was with us from NIPS, Kuru, near Jos. Here in the studios, the former DG of NOTAP, that's the Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, Dr. Omar Bindril. Dr. Bindril, thank you for being with us on the program today. So that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria. Tomorrow is another day, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osado.
And I'm Kirian Omayo. Have a great day.
You can watch NTA International